You're listening to Compliance Bites with VetSnap, hosted by resident compliance pros Courtney and Cass, where we cover bite-sized DEA compliance topics perfect for your snack break. Let's take a bite out of compliance and check out today's episode. All right, everybody, welcome to Compliance Bites with VetSnap. I'm your host, Courtney, and I'm joined by Cass. So today we have a real fun topic. We are going to be chatting about that audit prep countdown. So in that happy world, let's say DEA has called you up on the phone. They say, hey, I'm going to be coming to your practice next week to do an audit or an inspection. What are those 5 steps that you should take to make sure that everything is ready and you are going to pass that audit with flying colors? Let's get into it. All right, Cass. So let's talk about what that first step would be. The first thing to kind of get everything started. We've heard from DEA. They're going to be coming to us next week. What should we start with? What would be your first kind of pre-step to get everything going?
Number one, I think I'd go into a dark room and take a deep breath and remind myself it's not the end of the world. Okay, they're not here to shut us down, right? They're here to ensure compliance. I think the biggest step for me is just take a breath. Once I've done that and I've got my breath back and I realize, okay, I can handle this. We are doing everything that we should be doing. I would go and I would want to do a physical count right away. I just want to make sure where we're at right now, and this is physically what I have in my clinic right now.
Absolutely. That's where you don't know where you are if you don't know where you are. You don't know what to fix if you don't figure out where you're standing out right there. So getting that first inventory count, figuring out what are my actual numbers, where am I currently at, what are the numbers that I have to compare everything to. You can't miss that. There is no way around it. If we're talking about those top 5 steps, that is where you have to start. Before we even start with step 1, make sure that you've done an updated physical inventory count.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
We can actually get into first steps. We can get into what we need to do. So I've done my physical inventory count. I know what I actually have on all of my shelves. I know what's in my containers. I know how many mils I have. I know how many tablets I have. Really what I feel like that official first step, let me grab that controlled substance logbook. Let me see if those numbers are actually matching. I did the physical count. I know what I actually got. Does it match what the logbook says I'm supposed to have?
Absolutely. That is a crucial next step, so that you kind of know, okay, I know where I was at. Now let's see what things say that I'm at and see kind of what's going on with the balances.
Absolutely. Now, what are the most common discrepancies that you'll see there, Cass, of just trying to look in and being like, oop, numbers don't match. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I think that the biggest ones that I tend to see when I'm helping out clinics or sometimes even in my own practice is that we missed a log entry or we transposed a number or we've got little finite details of different parts of the log entries missing. All of those can add up and definitely be problematic. But I'm curious, kind of what have you ran into with that?
I feel like if we're doing it by hand, if we're doing it manually, it is those math errors. I can calculate every single mg per kg dosage that I need to do for my different surgeries, for my CRIs. I can handle all of that, but sometimes it is just those little simple math mistakes. What I'm saying, I took 0.7 mils and I don't carry a 1. I've got the decimal space in the wrong spot. That's what makes the biggest issues, I feel like, when I'm trying to do it manually. So that's really that first step. So I've gone in, I've done my physical inventory count. I know what I'm supposed to have. And now I see, do those numbers match? And again, to err is to be human. A lot of times those numbers are not going to be that perfect match. So now we can go through, we can see with what's in your logbook, what was not entered in correctly, where did we have those math mistakes, what's going there. And then that next step is seeing, okay, what was missing from the logbook? What were those forgotten logs? When was it that crazy day that I just didn't get any of my logs added in? And that's what's causing my numbers to be off.
Totally. Totally. Yep. And once you find those, kind of knowing, okay, now that I've recognized and found what the issue is, now what am I going to do to actually correct it, right? Because we always want our logbook to be accurate. So then what are we going to do to actually make those corrections happen once we found them?
Absolutely. And that's where making sure that we're documenting everything correctly. I think that's where people
Yeah.
get so scared.
Yeah.
They're just like, I can't show the DEA that I made a mistake. So I'm just gonna pretend that they don't find it and I'm
Yeah.
just gonna
It's not
not
there.
add
I don't see
anything.
it.
But going in and showing, hey, you are showing the DEA that you were being proactive. You went
Yes.
into your logbook, you saw that something was missed, and you've made that correction. So adding in a
Absolutely.
good note, hey, this was supposed to be logged on this day. It was discovered on this day, so I'm adding it into my logbook. Or
Totally.
we did give an extra dose of medication and we just didn't adjust that number. So I am
Yeah.
adding that in. Or I did have that math mistake. That's why I'm adjusting this number. I am not erasing anything. We are
Yeah.
making sure that everything can still be seen properly. And I've
Of
got those
course.
signatures showing that I have witnesses, that someone else is coming through and saying, hey, it's nothing shady. We are making sure that our
Yeah.
logbook is as up to date as
Yeah.
possible.
Right. And as long as you're doing those steps and you're able to paint that picture of what happened, I think that they're going to be a lot more understanding than trying to sweep it under the rug. Oh, yeah. And it's like little things that are missing. It's like people don't realize, it could be that you didn't have the address correct. You didn't
Mhm.
actually do all your quantity. Your math could be wrong. Maybe you were missing initials on who actually was doing the log entry. Little things like that is a very important part of record keeping.
Absolutely. And Cass, you bring up a great point. So having maybe I got all of my logs into that logbook, but I am missing key information. So tell me a little
Yes.
bit more. That address, maybe going back and realizing, hey, I wasn't adding all of the information that I needed to have in there, and DEA is not going to like that.
Yes, it's just little things that I always tell people. I'm like, if you're not sure what all should be going into your log entries, make sure that you find a resource that will explain it to you. So patient name, client name, date of birth, species, all of those are really important pieces that we oftentimes forget, right? We're busy in practice. We've got the patient getting under anesthesia. We just want to write down what we used and move on, but you can't. You have to do it full compliance. And I always give people the resource of the CFR Title 21, Chapter 2, because there is record keeping in there, and it will tell you everything that you need to have to a detail for each log entry.
Absolutely. So it's not just making sure that something is in that logbook.
Yeah.
We want to make sure we have all of the information that is needed in
Yeah.
that logbook.
Yep.
So that's
Absolutely.
taken us to first couple of steps. We've got our record keeping. So we've done our physical inventory count. We know what we actually have on hand. We've made sure that the numbers are matching. We're not missing anything out of that logbook. Everything is accurate. But what about when we're moving a little bit past our record keeping? So let's
Yeah.
talk less about our controlled substance record and more about like our authorized user list. How important
Yeah.
is that, Cass?
It is super important because it's basically assigning and showing here's who's involved with the usage, administration, record keeping, all of it with our controlled substances, and that authorized user has been approved by the DEA registrant themselves. So it's not just the random person who's coming and doing this. It's actually maintaining that relationship and that approval process from DEA registrant to the actual person who's helping with those controlled substances, which opens a very valid and something to think about too is, okay, do I have other people doing my ordering for me, right? That's an additional type of authorized user. And do I have maybe my power of attorney in place if I don't have that in place
Mhm.
already? Those are really important steps to make sure that you've got happening for you.
Absolutely. And it seems so simple, but I feel like it's something that gets
Yeah.
really overlooked. Like we're so used to
Yes.
being like, I've got to devote maybe hours. I've heard horror stories of reconciling my logbook, making
Yeah.
sure that I have all that. That's sometimes just the simple of, is my authorized user list, is my power of attorney, are all my forms up to
Yes.
date, gets
Yes.
missed, and that's where we start to get dinged by the DEA.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you could have, a list, but are you updating it, right? Like, does it match what you currently have, or do you still have employees that maybe aren't even employed there anymore, right? You still have all their information on that user list and they don't need to be there. Or you have new employees that you haven't added yet. It's so easy to forget those little things because we're busy, and that's like a behind the scenes. We don't think about it, but it is something that'll get you dinged.
How often do you normally recommend updating your authorized user list, Cass?
Anytime there's a change. Anytime there's a change. If it's somebody left, somebody's new, I have a doctor going on maternity leave, maybe they're not going to be there, so that could be I need to just inactivate them for a little while because during
Mhm.
this certain period of time they don't have access, they're not using it. Literally anytime there's a change, and it's never a bad idea to just check in with it regularly.
Perfect. And then that also will kind of include two security records. So making
Yes.
sure, do we have, maybe a safe that everybody has access to that key, or
Yeah.
we have multiple keys that are just kind of floating around, making sure that you know who's actually able to get into your safes, into your
Yep.
lockboxes, who can touch those drugs.
Yep, absolutely. And if you've got the type that maybe it's a keypad or maybe it's a fingerprint, make sure that if you're updating that user list, that all of that has been handled as well. I have heard stories where people, it was a fingerprint access or a key code, and yeah, they weren't there and they updated the user list, but they forgot to actually like remove the access. So that's a really important step in the security of the controlled substances.
Next step, we'll be going more into forms. So we've already kind of chatted a little bit about power of attorney forms, but also just making sure any of our DEA forms are also up
Yes.
to date. So things like our 222s. I feel like I hear
Yep.
lots of horror stories there. So what are
Yes.
some of the forms that you like to make sure are always up to date, Cass?
So, biggest one for me is Form 41. I think that that's a big one that is often missed when you're doing any sort of in-house destruction. And
Mhm.
honestly, I'll even utilize it if you're doing reverse distribution and you're sending those drugs back. Fill that form out so that you at least know anytime a substance is dispersing from me, I've destroyed it in some way or gotten rid of it, I filled that form out. That's a huge one that's missed because there's the RX destroyer, whatever the in-house method might be. We're logging it in our logbook. We did waste. We closed out the bottle. All was good in the world, but you didn't have that form. That
Mhm.
documentation is so important. Form 41 is often missed. That would be my big one that I would urge people to make sure. And don't wait, until you're having to use the form to be the first time you ever saw it, because then you're overwhelmed, you're stressed out, you're looking at something you've never seen before, trying to fill out and make sure it's accurate so you don't get dinged on that.
And definitely make sure that it's not just you're looking at these forms once and then never looking at them again. So I always love to
Yes.
talk about 222s. 222s, when we're originally filling those out when we're wanting to request our controlled substances,
Right.
but we also actually have to sign and say how many controlled substances we
Yes.
received. That is one of the most common things that gets missed on your 222 form.
Yes.
It's actually filling out and saying, yes, I received this many of them, and actually noting that. So making sure it's not, I touched it once and then I never looked at it again. Making
Yeah.
sure, okay, is there anything additional that needs to be filled out afterwards so that I have a completely complete record?
Such a great point to bring up. Honestly, it's something that even just sitting here now, it didn't cross my mind. I'm so focused on like destruction that the second you said 222, I was like, we've ran into that where we order so much hydro and they're like, nah, it's backdated or back ordered. We only get 2 of the 4 bottles. And you need to go back to that form. You need to say, here's what I actually received.
And then even beyond DEA forms, the other thing that I feel like can get really forgotten or missed is, and it seems again, it's one of those really simple things, our registrations, our licenses,
Yes,
making
yes,
sure that those are actually up to date, that you have renewed, that you're actually able to be able
yes,
to have controlled substances. But if your veterinary license expires, you cannot be touching controlled substances either. So making sure that
yes.
everything is staying up to date.
You know what's an interesting fact that not a lot of people know is if your veterinary license was to lapse and you carry a DEA license, it's actually the state, they will turn you into the DEA that your veterinary license is lapsed. That's like something I didn't even ever think would be something that would be possible, but it is. It's a double-edged sword, right? You got to keep both of them up to date.
Definitely is scary, but again, it's one of those simple things. And that's where a
Yeah.
lot of times I feel like we
Yeah.
overcomplicate controlled
Yes.
substances, that we have some
Yes.
very simple steps to just make sure, hey, is this up to date? Is this current? And do I have it somewhere that I can grab it easily? So that brings us to kind of our next step will be having that readily retrievable binder,
Yeah.
having everything in one place. So,
Oh, yeah.
Cass, what are some things that you like to have in a readily retrievable binder?
I love organization. So this is like one of my favorite things. And it just simplify it. That's what I tell people. Just simplify it. You want to have your physical count in there. You want to have your logbook. You want to have any forms that those forms we're just talking about, your licenses, things like that. Just have it all easily and ready for them. If you have any SOPs, so if you have any standard operating procedures or policies, any controlled substance continuing education, you're going to want to have all of that in there. Your authorized users, literally make it as easy and simple as possible to say, hey, I understand we're getting audited. Here's everything I have set in place. Here's everything ready for you to look at based on the dates and whatever drug you wanted to look at. Give it to them nice and easy, make their life simple, make their day easier, and I promise it'll go better for you.
Yes, that is always going to be the key thing. Make it easy for the DEA.
Yes.
And by making it easy, again, it shows that you take pride in what you're doing, that you
Absolutely.
actually so that controlled substances is
Absolutely.
important to you. It is something that you're staying on top of, and you are so
Yes.
prepped and ready for them.
Yes, they don't walk in and you go, I don't know, Janet does that from way back in the day, and here's, boxes of stuff. Oh
Yes.
God, don't do that to them.
Yeah.
Nope, nope. It should
Yeah.
matter, and they want to see that it matters.
And that you bring up such a good point too of making sure that when we have that readily retrievable binder, when we are handing over things for the DEA, that we are giving them just what they are asking for and
Yes,
not anything additional. I have seen
yes,
so many horror stories
yeah,
of they asked for a month's worth of your buprenorphine usage and you handed them the entire book. Or
yeah,
you handed them just all of your controlled substance logins and said, I don't know, it's all
right.
in here. And then they get to go wild.
Yeah, it's a red flag if you're like, here's all of it when they only
Mhm.
wanted, March of 2025 of just buprenorphine. They go, huh, I wonder. And then they just start looking, and there's
Mhm.
just no reason to give them what they're not asking for. If they ask for more, great, get it for them. But if you give them more than they ask for, they're going to look, right? If they want to look, they're
Mhm.
going to look, and they may find something to ding you for. Not to say that you should hide anything, but you just want to give them what they're asking for. Thank you, have a great day, and hope that you've done everything appropriately.
Absolutely. And that's where we always want to make this easy. We want to make this
Yes.
a simple thing. We want to, as simple as controlled substances may be. We are never going to say they're not important. They are some of the most important things that we are dealing with, but we want to make this a simple process. We want to have a routine down pat. We want to know what our
Yes.
compliance standards are. And
Yep.
we want solutions that are going to make it easy for us to maintain when we are also doing 20 million other things in the day. So
No
having
kidding.
that proper solution makes
Yes.
things so much better, right, Cass?
Yep, absolutely. There's a little acronym that my dad always told me. It was KISS, and it was always keep it simple, silly. Like
Mhm.
he always said that to me from when I was a kid. There's other acronyms with a little bit worse words, but to keep it kid friendly for me, he always said, keep it simple, silly. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
complicated.
Absolutely. And so one of the solutions that's going to make things so much easier is VetSnap. So if you have not
Oh,
heard
yes.
about VetSnap before, if you've not used VetSnap before, this is going to make it so easy for you when DEA is walking in the door. VetSnap is going to be a DEA compliant. It's a digital logbook, meaning you are not handing over boxes and
Yes. Here you
boxes of
go.
paperwork. You literally get to go through and say, okay, the DEA came in and they want to look at 1 month's worth of my buprenorphine usage. I can
Yep,
enter those start and end dates and I can download that
absolutely.
audit report and hand them just what they have asked for.
Absolutely. And it just keeps it simple. I mean, it really does.
Mhm.
You're not missing information when you're logging it. It's capturing everything that's required. Discrepancies, it's showing you, hey, there's an issue. Let's get it corrected. It's showing you containers that maybe you forgot still had a balance, but was physically empty. And it's just, yeah, the ability to keep things simple, walk you through how to make corrections and, set those parameter dates on those filters, print it, wham, bam, there you go. Keep it simple and easy for them.
Absolutely. So every single one of these steps that we have covered today in terms of being ready for that audit, being ready if the DEA is coming in next week, what you need to do to make sure that you are going to be able to pass that with flying colors, VetSnap is going to keep it so much simpler, silly. So definitely head over to vetsnap.com. You can fetch a demo with us. We can chat with you a little bit more about how we can help you with your record keeping, but we can go even beyond records. So we also are going to have integrated hardware options. This is where you can control those authorized users. You can say who is actually
Yep.
getting into your safes, who is getting into your lockbox, who is allowed to get into your controlled substances. You can set it all digitally with VetSnap as well. Ready? Thank you so much, Cass, for chatting with me. I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for coming and chatting with us for another Compliance Bites with VetSnap. Make sure to check us out next time for another episode, and we'll see you again. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Compliance Bites with VetSnap. Still hungry for help? Head on over to vetsnap.com for everything you need to stay compliant with no crumbs left behind.